surprised if we saw 8 to 10 players touching the ball, receiving the ball. So I think I'm most excited about that, and just spreading it around.
Why the switch to number 2?
So I mean, last year I didn't really have a choice of 14. They kind of gave me it, and then 2 was open. So I mean, and plus like the legacy that 2's had around here. Obviously, grew up watching Trevon play. Grew up down the street, so I got to watch him in person a bunch. So I mean, and just his playing style, it's electric, and what it did with this fan base. I mean, it was fun to watch. So I mean, I wanted to try and be a part of that and leave my legacy as well.
Chandler, what did you work on most in the offseason?
Obviously my weight, I worked on that a lot. And then I guess the playbook. I mean, I wanted to really get that down, whether it was just kind of basic stuff. I really focused on that. I mean, maybe like a formation. You've obviously got tons of formations. I want to understand that really well though, and kind of know all the ins and out of that formation, what all we can do with it. So that was a big thing, and then obviously, or a big thing for me was footwork. I want to always have a square base in the pocket. It doesn't matter if there's pressure, there's people at my feet. My biggest thing was I wanted to have a squared base and be ready to trigger the ball at any second.
Are there nuances to this offense that you can only get by playing it, though, that you can't necessarily learn just by studying the playbook?
For sure. Me personally, I'm like I think I've got to do it. I've kind of got to go out there and fail to learn, pretty much. I'm more of that type of learner. So there's definitely some stuff that you got to go out there and rep it to get a feel for it.
What type of mentality do you need when you're just quarterback competition? Obviously, Max and other guys are your teammates, so you want to help them get better. But I'm sure you want to play and get most of the snaps as well too.
For sure. I mean, my mindset is compete, don't compare. That's my biggest thing going into camp. It's been my biggest thing all off season. Because at the end of the day, you're competing. It's not about what's the other person doing about that. Like I've got blinders on me. I'm just focused on what I'm doing. What can I do to compete and get better? And then obviously my teammates, I want to encourage them. I want them to succeed, and I mean just being that leader and trying to encourage them. That was a big role for me.
You kind of just mentioned it, but talk a little bit more about what's that relationship like with you and Max and Sam and all the other guys in the QB room.
We're really close. I mean, we've all been together, I guess, a year now, all 3 of us. So I mean, it's fun. We'll cut up every now and then and kind of just mess around, but it's nothing. We leave the business on the field, and then when we come in the locker room, we're just friends.
Chandler, you obviously had the big game last year, and then you got a little more, and you got hurt. But how much did that just whet your appetite even more to just, this is what I want it to be, this is what I know it can be?
For sure. Obviously that little success that I had, it was a lot of fun. Biggest thing was not falling in love with the outcome, falling in love with the process. And that's a huge thing for me this off season, and just kind of, if you fall in love with the process, the outcome, it's going to come, and it's going to be what you want. So not getting too focused on the outcome, but.
How easy does it make your job when you have a guy like Quentin Johnston to throw to and a guy like Kendre Miller to hand the ball off to?
It makes my job a lot easier. I mean, like you mentioned them too. Obviously, those are some really good players right there. We've got other dudes though. I mean, that can take the pressure off them. If you ask them that question, they'll probably refer to, well, if Kendre was asked that question, he'd probably refer to Amari, Amani, and I could keep going in that room. And then Quentin, he would just talk about, we've got some really good inside receivers along with outsides as well. I mean, you can't just put one over the top of him. You've got 5 other dudes you've got to look out for. And then we've got some true freshmen coming in here at receiver that are going to be electric.
The flip side of that is there's probably nobody more qualified to talk about the new Joe Gillespie defense than you and Max probably. And Sam, so, what are you seeing there, from a personal standpoint and just a scheme standpoint that you take away?
I mean, they're obviously it's a drop 8, so it's going to be difficult to throw the ball against. with that, it comes with, you've gotta have linebackers that can, stop the run. You've gotta have really good front, because it's gonna put a lot of stress on them, 3 down. So I mean, it's fun to go against them in practice. Obviously, we're not gonna see too many teams like that. Now I know in the Big 12 that there will be some, especially Iowa State. OU will have a little bit now, and but I mean they're learning. I could tell kind of that first week of spring, they weren't really sure. They weren't in the right spots, and we were kind of dicing them, and then they kind of caught up, and they had a really good spring.
You know, picked 7th in the conference this year. Does that add any extra motivation to you guys as a unit to go out and can maybe prove people wrong?
I didn't know we were picked 7th, but I mean it's obviously a fuel, but at the end of the day, it's the same thing. I mean that we've never been favored. That's never been the case. So I mean it's put your head down and go to work and control what you can control.
Anything else for Chandler?